The following conversation is with Vishal Sareddy, a student at UC Berkeley studying political economy and computer science. Throughout this episode, we cover the journey of self-discovery and exploration at Berkeley. As they approach the end of sophomore year, they discuss both confidence in their abilities and anxiety about the future. We dive into the importance of relationships and friendships in college, exploring the challenges of maintaining meaningful connections amidst academic pursuits. Join us as we navigate the evolving dynamics of friendships, the pressure of decision-making, and the pursuit of purpose. I really enjoy how this episode turned out, and I hope you guys find it insightful too. So Vishal, what is your major?
I'm a political economy and intended computer science double major.
And if you had to tell someone you just met about who you want to be remembered for, what would that be?
Honestly, I don't think that's a question I feel like I can very clearly answer right now, given I'm very unsure about exactly who I want to be, how I want to be perceived. But if I were to give maybe a broad generalization of what exactly I want to be seen as or who I want to be seen as, I want to be seen as someone who has generated an impact in the field that they're passionate about, whatever they may be. And honestly, I just want to be seen as loving, be seen as having lived a happy life, and being seen as successful, however one may define that.
So at the current trajectory you're at right now, what does that kind of life look like? What field are you working in? What projects are you looking into? All that type of good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like, especially now more than ever, I feel like I've explored many different areas of interest.
What have you?
Yeah,
what have you looked at?
I can delve into a couple. I've always throughout, I've been very interested in geography and geographic literacy, especially throughout high school. I started a not-for-profit focused on building geographic curriculums and improving geographic literacy. Yeah, it's a website called GeoGenius. You should check it out if you want. We essentially started off as a sort of organization that meant to build a platform initially through basically a web page that was meant to sort of teach people who entered it about, our world. But we sort of evolved into more of a service rather than simply a website by reaching out to other organizations, hosting, competitions and bees that were meant to sort of spur students, especially students in elementary and middle school, to learn more about our world. And I guess it's sort of, I don't want to say devolved, but maybe evolved actually might be a better word, into a sort of just a way to sort of do what we are best at and then let the organizations who specialize in other, tasks focus more on distribution and stuff like that. So we are good at making these curriculums. We'll let the other organizations teach them and distribute them to the students that they have a sort of wider network towards. So that was something I was more interested in high school, but I feel like especially as I entered college, my interest sort of expanded a lot more. Honestly, maybe because I've gotten a lot of exposure. I think something I really like, especially about Berkeley, is essentially I've gotten exposure into not just more of social science fields, but more into STEM fields, especially in data science, which is a field I've been very interested in as of late. Not just data science, but business, entrepreneurship. I've met a lot of very honestly very inspiring individuals and groups of people who've sort of made me question what exactly I want to do in my life, right? So while I started off coming in as, if I want to go into majors, as a public health and political science student who is very interested in healthcare equity and healthcare policy, right now I'd say I'm more interested in applying just data analytics or machine learning methods into, solving problems related to the social sciences. And while that seems very different from where I started, I feel like it's a path that through, a year and a half of just constant growth and constant exposure to all kinds of different fields, I feel like I've gotten really, accustomed to, in a sense. Nowadays, I actually recently took up a research project through Berkeley where I'm analyzing satellite imagery of sand mines in India and basically constructing a machine learning model in order to analyze those images and vegetation data and mining data in order to determine whether there is a lot of mining going on, and not just legal mining, but also illegal sand mining going on in these regions, and whether sort of bans that were placed in these regions that we get from newspapers and other sources have worked effectively towards stopping illegal, I guess, sand mining or illegal tools in sand mining.
Interesting. Oh, wait, so that's something that you're looking into right now? Or?
Yeah, that's actually, it's a research study that I've taken up with a professor. His name is Professor Blumenstock, if you want to look into him. He's actually done a lot of amazing research. He has a website with all of the things he's published. And he's focused very heavily in quantitative social science, which is sort of a field I've been very interested in, because I feel like it takes both the technical aspects of data science and data analytics, as well as social sciences, geography, mapping, spatial data, and essentially combines the two to create solutions that are more effective and more impactful in today's world.
Oh, that's crazy. And I think that's really interesting, the point that you brought up about, or I'm taking a step back here, but I found it interesting that you mentioned that your interest changed over college because you ran into different individuals that kind of inspired you. Who were those people like, and what inspired you the most about them? Or was it like a kind of story? Was it their passions? Like what was it that sparked you?
I think, honestly, more than anything else, it was sort of their actions, the things they've done. Because people can say a lot of words, people can be very eloquent, very inspiring, very charismatic. But to me, what I guess derives the most impact or the most meaning to me are the things they've done. And I feel like, especially in Berkeley, maybe it's the startup culture that this place has cultivated. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm in Silicon Valley. But I feel like I've seen so many people who have started so many impactful businesses, who have been part of very impactful organizations, and not just at like the larger scale, like in, I guess, America or in the world, but even when considering just our college environment, people who have built clubs out of the ground, or from the ground, and people who have made an impact on just college student life, simple college students' lives. I feel like that spirit is something that I sometimes take for granted, to be honest, but something that now, thinking back, I realize these people are making such amazing impact, and being surrounded by these people inspire me in a sense to make that impact. I think the one thing I'm trying to figure out, though, is where exactly I feel like I can create that impact, because I feel like I'm a very conflicted individual when it comes to what I'm interested in. I don't know what exactly drives me outside of a curiosity to learn.
So I think there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. In fact, I think college is the perfect place to figure that out, right? It's a place for people who don't know where they want to be in life to sort of figure out, oh, this is exactly where I'm going to be in life. And while many of my friends, many of my peers I know have decided, oh, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be a software engineer. I'm going to be a doctor. Like, all of these defined realms that people sort of put themselves in, I feel like I'm very fluid in a sense where I enjoy many things, but maybe not enough to commit to it. Or maybe I'm just scared to commit to a specific field.
Right.
So early on, not just because of the fact that once I commit, I have to take all these steps. And if I end up decommitting, all these steps would be for waste, but more so a mental commitment. Like, I feel like if I mentally commit to one specific field or one specific task that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, or for most of the rest of my life, I feel like mentally decommitting from that would just cause a lot of stress per se. So I'm just trying to figure out where exactly I lie in the grand scale of things, especially in a place as impactful as Berkeley is, in a place as, I guess, as impact generating as Berkeley is. I want to find my place here, essentially.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the times there's like this societal pressure to figure things out. But as a sophomore now, going into your second semester, would you say that it kind of gives you a bit of like stress almost because you haven't figured that out, while you find you're surrounded by all these people who have committed to some kind of future that they want, and yet you're here still trying to figure things out? Or do you feel completely comfortable in trying out all these things?
Yeah, it's a funny mix actually. Like I remember like back in freshman year, I was kind of like, oh, I'll figure it out, right? But now I guess we're in sophomore semester or second semester sophomore year, and I'm like, oh shit, we're almost halfway done, right? And then all my friends out here, they're like getting internships, they're getting like offers, they're getting all that, and I'm like, oh, that's literally almost gonna be me at some point, right? But will it be me, right? In a sense, right? Because I'm not sure. Like at that point, like you're committing to that field. Like I know people
Right.
who want to be software engineer interns at Amazon or so. Like just recently, my friend just got an Amazon interview, and I'm like, oh wow, that's great. But internally, I was thinking like, oh shit, I guess like maybe I should have just like gone this way. I should have just like committed to this like earlier, because then maybe I would have had a better chance. Because I know I have the capability of doing great things, right? In a sense.
And would you say that's like the key to it all is just having confidence in yourself that you're going to figure things out?
I think in a sense it is. It definitely alleviates stress, right? I feel like people who don't have confidence and are unsure at the same time will just be constantly stressed, like continually stressed, because they'll see all these people around them getting internships, getting awards, getting research, getting offers, getting jobs, and then they'll be there like, oh, where am I in all this, right?
Right.
But I feel like if you have confidence that, oh, okay, maybe one day I know I will get this, like it definitely alleviates the stress behind the unsureness you have about where you want to go, right? And I feel like that sort of keeps me sane in a sense. The confidence that I have the capability, I work really hard. I have, I guess, the intent, the smartness, like all of that to do great things, right? I think that keeps me sane. But at the same time, like there's always like this part in the back of my head where I'm like, yeah, no, like I'm getting halfway there. I need to figure it out. Where are you at this point, right? So I think it's just like a mix. It's an interesting mix. This is very, I don't want to say like climactic, but just a very like a crossroads is what I've been calling it. Like all my friends, I tell them like this is a crossroads
Interesting.
in our lives, right?
Why do you say that? Like, what's the analogy?
It's kind of like at a crossroads, there's multiple paths, right? There's like path A, there's path B, there's path C. And you can see the beginning of the path, right? But you cannot see where that path will take you unless you take it. And that kind of is scary, right? Because you don't know where exactly you'll end up. You kind of have to take a risk, right? Or take many risks. So, and I feel like this time or this semester, more than any other, is the period where you have to determine your risk. Like this is honestly, I believe this is the last semester you can declare a major.
Really?
I believe so. I believe sophomore spring. I might be wrong in that. You might have to fact check me. But I believe this is the last semester you can declare a major. Many STEM fields, especially like I believe tech, business for sure. I believe finance is recruiting right now. It would be very crucial for you to get internships at this period in time if you want offers like later on or good offers later on. You kind of want to figure out where you're doing so you have a direction for your junior and senior years. Just so many decisions you have to make, not just professionally, but if you want to go socially, who are your friends really in a sense, right? If you think about it, like freshman year, you meet all these people who are the ones you want to keep.
Right. And I think that's like a really, that's another like really interesting topic to, we can talk about. It's like aside from academics, how have you found relationships with people, friends to be, is it something that's important to you? Where do you find the value out of having it? Do you think more people should make a more active effort to make a connection with people here on campus? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think it's honestly very peculiar to me. Because I feel like my freshman year, I had a very solid grip on, I guess, who I was in a social sense. I'm typically very outgoing, very interested in getting to know people. But I feel like as you age, and maybe this is a bit of advice for freshmen or like high schoolers who are listening to this, but when you live sophomore year, maybe this is a Berkeley thing because maybe we're living in apartments, you see less people just by coincidence. When you get to your sophomore year, you kind of maybe have to decide, and maybe you don't have to, but in a sense, there's a pressure to decide who are the ones that I don't want to say are worth keeping, but are worth maintaining a close bond to in a sense, right? Because while you meet all these people, if you go outside your dorm, if you make an effort, you will meet so many people, especially in Berkeley, where everyone's trying to get to know each other. So many people have, I don't know, just left high school, left all their friends from high school, like just are entering this new environment and just wanting to make some friends, right? It's fairly easy freshman year, but once you get to sophomore year, like sometimes people can surprise you sometimes people can maybe scare you in a sense. Like sometimes you feel an
Really?
attachment to someone and you realize that they are not who you think they are, or they're not as close as you think they are. And maybe it's not because they're a good or bad person, but maybe just you don't fit as well as you thought you did, especially going from freshman to sophomore year when things get a little more serious.
Uh-huh.
In a social sense, you kind of have to really decide who you want to keep in your life, or at least who you want to keep close to you.
Right.
Because, and while people say, oh, sometimes your friendships change, sometimes, I feel like there is an element of closeness you build sophomore year because of the high amount of time you spend with the people you're closest with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something, especially considering that college is an environment where we all literally live together. If you think, it's not like high school where you live with your family and everyone else lives in separate. Like you all literally live together. We all literally live together, which is kind of crazy because you'll never get this like anywhere else.
Right.
And closeness builds very fast, and that can be very dangerous sometimes because you have to be kind of careful because otherwise you'll just get hurt. If you
Is there like, are you speaking from experience here, or?
I think it's just more like realizations I've made, because maybe I don't think it's like specific individuals in a sense, but it's more like I see someone, I maybe spend a lot of time with them over like a month or over a period of 2 months, but then either it's like a trend where you maybe stop spending less time with them, or they stop making efforts to reach out to you, or maybe they do something problematic or anything like that. And it makes you think, oh, I've seen this person in this light for so long. And now you just feel blindsided, right?
Mm-hmm.
You feel stupid in a sense. Like you're just like, I saw this person as such a role model, such a good person, like such a close figure to me. And I guess just in one snap, like they're just gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not maybe gone as in like you're enemies with them, but just distant from them, right? Like there are people like I thought I was close with, like maybe my freshman or my sophomore years, like honestly, even from my dorm, that I thought I'd be seeing a lot more, but then I enter sophomore year and I just don't see them at all.
Right.
And it's scary in a sense, like thinking about it, it's like maybe in another like lifetime I would be close with them, and they're honestly like, I think they're good people in a sense, and they're very compatible people maybe with someone else, but it makes you think like maybe in another environment, like it could have been them instead of like someone else, right? So it's just funny. I think it's peculiar more than anything. I don't think it's bad, but it's something you have to prepare for.
Right. And yeah, everything you've said is pretty much what I'm thinking also, because there's so many people that you can find interesting, so many people that you can connect with here on campus, but at the end of the day, you are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right?
Exactly.
So you want to make sure that those 5 people around you are the people that want the best for you and the people that you want to be, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's funny because while the people I feel like I surround myself with right now, or the people I consider myself close with, like I see their goods, I see their maybe bads, or at least what I perceive to be bad in them, or what I perceive to be problematic in them. But at the same time, I'm like, they're people who want the best for me. They're the people who I know will reach out to me, and they're the people I know I can rely on when I have a problem. And I think that is something that is very undervalued, because people want to find others who are most similar to them, or who think the same as them, or if they face a problem, they're like, oh yeah, you're right, the other person's wrong. But in my opinion, like we need others who are different from you and who are willing to provide their own perspective to life. Because not
right. So like, don't bring yes men into your life, right? Like
exactly.
Also have like people that disagree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else
yeah.
it's just
And,
like a giant echo chamber.
yeah, exactly. And you don't want that, because at the same time, like they say yes to you all the time. Like, okay, you face a problem with this person, or you face a problem with this situation, and they agree and they agree and they agree. But then when you face a problem with each other, who's going to agree with who?
Right.
And what's going to result from that, right? You're just going to split. Like, whereas if you say yes to like something, or you talk about something, and then they're like, actually, like maybe you should think it this way, or like maybe consider like the other person's perspective, or like maybe consider that you might be wrong here. I think that perspective is very valued, as long as I know that they care for me, like they want the best out of me, right? They say this criticism not because they want to judge me, but because they want me to succeed, or they want me to be the best person I can be. And I think that is something I see in all the people I don't want to say all, but like most of the people I surround myself with, or most of the people I try to surround myself with. And that's something, especially now, that I value in others or in close friends more than anything else.
So, yeah, I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. I understand that you're a part of a club, Global Research Consulting. A lot of people here on campus like to go to these clubs to find these people that they want to connect with. How do you kind of reflect on the values that you just talked about and bring them into the club?
Yeah, I think this is honestly very hard because clubs can be a very interesting, like, I guess, niche of people in a sense. And I think to describe my experience in GRC, Global Research and Consulting, the expanded, I'll refer to as GRC from now on. Essentially, it's an environment that you have to sort of insert yourself into for most of these clubs, especially because many clubs, especially professional organizations on campus, have been very well established. Even GRC, which was created in 2021, relatively recent compared to many other consulting or business or professional organizations that were created back in the 90s or the 80s. Even GRC had a very entrenched culture before I joined, in a sense, right?
So for context, how long have you been in this club and like what does GRC do?
Yeah, for context, GRC, this is my 4th semester in GRC. I joined my freshman fall, and the focus for GRC is to provide consulting services to international nonprofits, firms focused on social impact, a wide variety of organizations, most of them driven by social impact in a sense. And essentially, I've been in the club as a consultant, as a director of recruitment, which is essentially recruiting new members into the club, and external vice president these past 2 semesters, which focuses on recruitment, marketing the club, and then also conducting programming events for the club towards like the Berkeley campus as a whole.
So you've been like really involved.
Yeah, very, very involved actually. So
yeah, you mentioned you were VP of external now?
yes.
So I continue on our conversation from earlier, like as your role as VP of external, are you like trying to what is your goal for this community of people?
Yeah, I think if you look specific to my role, I want to just build a community of individuals who are like-minded in their desire for social impact, but very differently minded otherwise. Because at least relating it to the like community that I've built myself, my closest friends, essentially, we are all very different people who have managed to connect with each other at a very deep level.
Really?
And yeah, like I've mentioned, we all have different perspectives. I think some parts about my closest friends is great, and I think some parts about my closest friends is more problematic. And I think much of that comes from the fact that we are all just very different people. And I don't mean to say that we're incompatible, because in fact, I think we're very compatible, but we are all at the same time very different people. And I think I sort of want to bring that culture into the club through recruitment, especially because I feel like recruitment is essential in the fact that our culture is built from the people that are in it, in a sense. And while people are shaped by other people in many, many ways, at their core, people are the ones that sort of define what exactly a club is like, what culture is built within the club, and how socially the club portrays itself. And I guess whether members are happy being as part of the club or being as part of the club community. And while in GRC, I'm not going to lie, I do see issues. There's a lot of clickiness in the club, and sometimes people find very unnecessary problems with other people and play, I guess, a game of favorites in a sense,
Right.
where they sort of favor their friends over people in other cliques. I still feel like there is promise in a sense, because I've honestly have found some of my closest friends in GRC, even though I hang out with them outside of a GRC space. And I feel like, especially in our new recruiting classes, there's potential to build a community where maybe not everyone fucks with each other, but at the same time, like everyone at least gets along and understands each other. And I feel like, especially in a club setting where clubs here typically tend to be 40 to 50 members, GRC is active member count is around 40. It's very hard for 40 members to get along with each other, like all 40 members to get along with each other.
I'd imagine so, because like it's not even like they're getting paid, right? It's just like a voluntary like thing that everyone shows up to so
Yeah.
that they can work towards something.
Yeah, and obviously some people are probably going to have some extrinsic motivation just to get professional experience to put it on their resume and stuff like that. But at the same time, like everyone does this voluntarily. No one gets paid to be part of a club. It's something that people are like, okay, I'm gonna just do it myself because like why not? Like I want to join this community. I want to perform this service. I want to learn more about business or tech or whatever professional organization one joins, right? So it's very, very hard. And honestly, I don't want to say impossible, but very improbable that one can find a community as tight as their closest friends within a club. But at the same time, I want to get GRC as close to that level as possible. And while some may ask, like, okay, why don't you do that internally? Why don't you do that as internal vice president, organize socials, like curate a sort of culture within the existing members of the club that would make sort of everyone happy or make everyone understanding of each other. But I feel like as external vice president, I have a more impact in not just our present, but also our future. Because I feel like the foundations of a club are built on the people that we recruit. As I mentioned earlier, the future exec, the future board, the future leaders of our club, the future involved members of our club are built from the class that we recruit each semester. And I feel like by seeing who exactly those people are, not just professionally, but seeing what their passions are, what their interests are, who they portray themselves as, how they portray themselves as, I feel like is equally as important as curating internally a good environment for existing members.
So when it comes to navigating how to tackle all these challenges, is there some kind of role model that you follow, or is this just something that you're kind of figuring out on your own?
To be honest, I'm very much figuring out a lot of this on my own. I think a lot of it I take from past experience myself. If I see something that I did that was not very well received or that didn't have the impact that I wished it had, I'm like, okay, how can I fix this, right? Especially considering within the scope of GRC, this is my second semester as external vice president. This is my third semester handling recruitment. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of great things, I think. I've actually implemented blind deliberations to improve equity in recruitment. I've implemented more social elements to recruitment, increased collaboration with other professional organizations on campus to reach a wider group of people, and thus, I guess, allow more people to know about our organization and perhaps join or curate a community that is built on understanding in a sense, right? So I've done a lot of good things, but at the same time, I've also made a lot of mistakes. Like, for example, honestly, this semester, I think I rushed our recruitment timeline too much. So people sometimes got a little confused about who we are. And I feel like externally, we have to sort of create a clear message towards everyone as to who exactly we are if we want to convince people to sort of join our community, right? And I feel like that's something I didn't really do well this semester, especially considering I tried maybe making our recruitment timeline faster because of its own advantages, like making our project timelines faster for our consulting projects, making our retreat timeline sooner to get more people to come to retreat and sort of build those bonds that make creating a GRC community very essential. And I had my reasoning behind the decisions I made, but sometimes they aren't necessarily always the right decisions. And honestly, that's okay. I think I use those decisions and then I find the mistakes behind them, and then I create solutions that could possibly fix those mistakes. And I feel like a lot of the decisions I make are based on the past mistakes that I've made and sort of the solutions that I not mentally create, but also create by discussing with others who see those mistakes, take their advice as past leaders or as observers, and sort of create my own solutions in a sense. I think that more than anything is important to growth.
I think it's interesting that you bring up all these different ideas. It almost sounds like you're like running your own company almost. It's kind of crazy. But I'm curious, how are you able to do all of this when you're doing, what was it, 2 majors right now? I feel like balancing school with all the stuff that you're doing with planning in the club and hosting this big community of people, it must be like extremely exhausting for you.
Yeah, I think that is something that I've built over time at Berkeley, because I think my workload, I sort of treated it as a progression. Because my freshman year, I took 16 units of credit. I was involved as a consultant in GRC, and was in Model UN, my workload was a lot lighter. My classes were a lot easier. Whereas now I'm doing what is likely to be 24 units of credit. I'm considering 3 majors, likely going to be doing 2. I'm in executive leadership for a club and I'm involved in 2 other clubs. So it's kind of a lot busier, but I also think that busyness is possible because of the efficiency I've gained throughout college. Because honestly, my first semester, I lost a lot of efficiency or a lot of time management skill during the pandemic, which honestly can be another point of discussion. Maybe it's a discussion for another time. But I feel like I still maintain some of that rust from the pandemic and from senior year going into college. I was not very efficient. I didn't always do my work on time. I didn't always do my work to my best effort. But I feel like going through college and honestly being at Berkeley, seeing all these inspiring individuals sort of drove me to be more efficient with my time, to do all of these things and do all of these things without burning out, I think is very key. Because I feel like there are so many individuals in the school, like so many students who see all of these inspiring individuals and push themselves to do so much, right? But they don't maintain the habits necessary to do all of these things. Like they take in the actions and the charisma that all of these impactful organizations and individuals have without taking in what exactly allowed them to do all of this in the first place. Because it's not always just important, the actions that these individuals do, but exactly the skills that they've had to maintain or the personality traits that they've had to maintain to do this. Like you have to be on top of your shit, maybe create a calendar, create some method of organization, create a list of action items, not just doing everything just hocus pocus in a sense, right? And maybe just other skills like showing leadership to a group of people, making sure you are finishing all of your assignments on time, making sure you're talking to all of your professors, making sure you show a genuine interest in all of the stuff that you do, not doing everything just for the experience, but doing it because you actually are interested in the work that you're doing. I feel like there are so many different factors that one has to consider outside of the fact that, I just have to do a lot of stuff. Right. That doesn't get anyone anywhere, to be honest. And I feel like that's something that I've sort of gained from all the people that I've talked to, from all of the experiences that I've gained like throughout college, is be efficient, do the things you like. Don't do things because of the experience. Do things because you like them. Like I'm doing my research because you like them. I'm in executive leadership for GRC because that's something I want to do. I'm in the other club I'm involved in, the Berkeley Forum, which I can go in more detail with. I'm involved in it because I want to be involved in it, not because I think it would help my resume. In fact, I don't even put it on my resume. It's something that I just have a genuine interest for. And all the classes I take, some of them are requirements. I'm not going to lie. Like some of them, I just have to get through it. But for the most part, I really enjoy the classwork that I'm getting, especially this semester as I go into more upper division classes that are more niche and more unique to the majors that I'm interested in. I get into content that I actually enjoy reading and learning about. And I feel like that's something that has driven me to, I guess, do all the work that I need to do, get everything done, and I guess do everything on time. So I know that was a lot, but
no,
yeah.
I've definitely seen that through being a suite mate of yours, just how you kind of operate and spend your days like outside and getting all these things done. But as someone who's kind of explored a lot of the self-help realm, a thing that people preach a lot is this notion of focus, that you should really put all your time and energy into one thing so that you become the absolute best at it. What do you think of that phrase? And do you think, is there something inside you that thinks that you can be world-class at one of the things that you mentioned if you were just to focus at it? Or do you think it's important that you try everything all at once so that what you said, you get the stress and you get the understanding of how to be more efficient with your time and how to get everything done despite
this is kind of funny because it goes back to my earlier point of like, I guess, figuring out what you want to do. I think that phrase works very well for people who are very driven by one thing. Like, for example, if you're really into machine learning, for example, or to go more niche, if you're really into applying machine learning models to more quantitative like social science realm, like I guess something that I've been exploring lately. I think if you're very nichely interested in that, then hyper focusing your life and your interests around that one niche passion could be very, very effective. But I feel like, I guess speaking as someone who has not sort of been committed to just one area of interest, I feel like personally, if I were to sort of commit, at least at the present, to just one of these things, so like one of my interests or just one of my majors, I feel like there will always be like something nagging at the back of my mind, like, oh, I didn't explore this like well enough, or I didn't explore this enough. Like, what if that was that would have been more interesting? And I feel like that would have just driven me insane. I don't know. I'm honestly, this might be a to each their own thing. This might just like be the way I'm wired, the way I work, the way I've been raised. But at the same time, like that's not something that I feel like I personally could, I guess, implement in my own life. I have seen many, many people become successful, be happy with their lives because of this sort of hyper-focused mentality that they maintain. Like, for example, honestly, my own roommate, Daniel, I feel like he is someone who has sort of been very, very interested in just electrical engineering and computer science, has done a lot of personal projects in computer science and made a lot of really cool things. And honestly, he's a very, very smart individual, someone that I look up to sometimes because he may not be the most, like, he may procrastinate a lot, but he is very, very hardworking. Interesting. Yeah. He is someone who doesn't portray himself as a hard worker, but he is one of the hardest workers I feel like I know.
Interesting. Do you think a lot of people are like walking around like that also? Like, do you think this is a more common thing than we think it is?
I think so, because like honestly, like just the people we walk by every day across the street, like to us they might be NPCs, but like to someone else they might be role models, or honestly even to themselves they might be role models. Like they might be doing amazing things. They might create the next big project. They might create the next big startup. Like you don't know. Like it just might be the person walking like right across from you or sitting next to you at like your table when you're studying at the library, or honestly anything. Like I think that's the power of Berkeley, because Berkeley is an environment that attracts a lot of driven individuals and a lot of honestly very curious individuals. And while that might create a very high stress environment, sometimes I like to call Berkeley a pressure cooker, because honestly it's very, very stressful in the sense that we have such limited time to be expected to do all of these things, right? And in that sense, that creates so much pressure, and sometimes it bursts. Like sometimes people burst, right? And that's a negative of it. But at the same time, in some masochistic way, it's really a positive sometimes, because it creates these individuals that are so damn impactful, right? And honestly, like you don't know who these individuals may be. Like it may be the random Joe that you've never met, but then tomorrow you wake up and their startup just exploded out of nowhere. Like SnackPass, for example, probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
What's SnackPass?
Oh, the SnackPass, just a quick description of it. It's an app. If you're a college student, you might have heard of it. It's an app that sort of consolidates food areas like restaurants, fast food, all of that into one app, and then sort of gamifies it in the sense where you can sort of like order food online and pick it up from the restaurant. So I guess while you're going for your run or you're studying, you can just quickly order food, work for like 15 minutes, and then just pick it up at the store. And also creates a sort of gamified feature where you get to sort of interact with other individuals who are on the app, sort of do group orders, get discounts from like ordering with your friends and stuff like that. It's a very cool app. If you haven't checked it out and you're a college student with SnackPass operating in your area, you should definitely check it out, especially in Berkeley. But it was created by a Berkeley student actually. And I feel like that was something that was in many senses revolutionary, right? It's a more recent example. There are definitely like other things in Berkeley. Berkeley's a very special school. But I feel like as a very recent example, SnackPass was just something that just formed out of the blue. One guy saw a problem, was like, okay, I can code. I have business skills. I can create an idea. Let me create a business plan. Let me create a product and let me just release it. And it just became SnackPass, like out of nowhere. Honestly, a nationwide famous app that many people now recognize him for. Many people want to talk to him for. He's in some ways successful, or in ways that many people define to be successful. And that just happened because he saw something and he decided, you know what, fuck it, let's fix it. Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just the mindset that a lot of people in Berkeley operate, because they're not lazy. The school forces you not to be lazy. Like, because you see all these individuals, you see all this work, and you see how little time you have. You're like, okay, I gotta work. And then next time you see a problem, you're already like focused on working. So I'm like, okay, let me just work on this problem while I'm at it, right?
Right.
And I guess the best ideas come out of that, just randomness in a sense, and the randomness that this school curates.
So I completely forgot to ask you about this in your previous point, but on the topic of successful people and how you mentioned that you need to do more than just to work hard, but you also need to develop habits that they have. What habits do you currently have, and how have they helped you out?
Yeah, I think honestly I can speak to this because these are habits I think I've developed throughout college. Like, I've become very organizational. Like, my organization skills, I feel like, have gotten a lot better as I've developed in college. I used to pride myself on not having a calendar, on not having a Notion organized,
But
or
that
not
didn't
having
last
like
too long.
Yeah, that did not last long at all. I'm like, I got to this phase where I was like confused about the assignments I had to turn in, especially I'd say second semester freshman year, first semester sophomore year. I was like, you know what, this is a hot mess. Like, I need to get my shit together. So I have a Notion. I have all my assignments until the end of February. This is right now, end of January. All my assignments till the end of February, all of my tests, my midterms,
Oh,
my
wow.
quizzes,
Really?
all of that organized on a Notion. All of the events I have to attend, all of the club events that I have, all of my deadlines for my research, for club applications, for stuff like that, organized on my calendar. I check it religiously.
That's
I check my
insane.
Notion religiously. And it's like a 180 from like when I first entered college with absolutely zero organization skills, right? And I think that's something I pride myself upon now, because nowadays I like sit down on my laptop. I'm like, okay, what the fuck do I have to do now? And I look at my Notion and I look at my calendar. I'm like, oh shit, I have this assignment, or
Right,
shit,
yeah.
I have this deadline. And it makes it so much easier, right? Because you're like, you know what you have to do and you know what you have to complete in a very tangible sense, day by day by day by day. And in that sense, it gives me a sort of purpose, because like, honestly, right now it's Saturday, right? And I finished all my assignments until next Tuesday, and I look at my Notion and I see the next deadline is like the 30th or something, and I'm like, yo, let's go.
Wow,
I'm
very
a
nice.
couple of days ahead. I have a couple of days to just do what I like doing, right? And that could be anything, like from just like live like my social life. It's the weekend, have some fun with friends, go out with friends, to maybe just pursuing my own personal interests. Like, oh, I've been really, like, for example, I've been interested in machine learning lately. I've just recently joined that research study I was talking about. Maybe let me just read an article about it, or maybe let me just play around with some tools that are just available online. Or I've really wanted to like learn some skills lately. Like, I've been really into chess for the past 6 months or so.
Really?
Maybe let me watch a couple of chess videos. Maybe just learn a couple of skills that I can apply the next time I play with my friends, right? So just do the couple of things that honestly I just enjoy doing. And I don't want to call them intellectual activities, because that makes it sound very maybe elitist in a sense, but at the
Right.
same time, just doing the things I like doing, like going to the gym, even like just building a gym routine, like just very seemingly simple things that as a college student are very hard to maintain if you're not organized. I think that is a skill I pride myself upon now, especially considering the fact that I used to pride myself on not needing to be organized before, right? So
So you developed the skill of organizing all your assignments. Is there like a routine that you stick by to religiously, or are you still working on that? Like, do you wake up at a certain time, go to bed at a certain time, do something at this certain part of the day? I mean, I assume that you go to all your classes that you need to.
yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah, I think honestly, there are some elements that I keep very rigid in my routine. I think most of it's just classes, my club meetings, my club activities, and my research meeting. Those are the very rigid parts of my schedule. But outside of that, I like to maintain flexibility, or at least some general degree of flexibility, because I think flexibility is very important in not just dealing with your work, but in also dealing with people, because it makes you more appealing to others in a sense. Because I I feel like I know a lot of people with very rigid schedules, and honestly, it's great for them. If it works for them, I'm very happy for them, because in a sense, rigidity is organization, and organization is
Right.
very key. And I respect those people, but at the same time, I feel like maintaining a sense of flexibility is very like beneficial when trying to maintain relationships. Like as an example, this might be just a very broad example, but like say you need to meet a friend at like 5 p.m. and you have an assignment due at like midnight or something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
I feel like rigid people, they might be like, okay, I meet my friend from 5, but I need to leave at 6:30 because I need to get my assignment done. It might take like 3 hours, get it done from 6:30 to 9:30, and then get ahead on my work from 9:30 to like midnight, go to sleep at midnight, right? A very rigid person, I feel like, would do that. But I feel like the way I operate, I'm like, okay, I meet them at 5. As long as I get my stuff done by 12, let's see how it goes. I have to allocate some level of time, right? But that time can be an hour here, an hour here, an hour here. If it takes 3 hours, or maybe an hour 30 here and an hour 30 later, if it like, or something like that. Like, I feel like that flexibility to be able to do my assignment in some span of 3 hours, or maybe less, or maybe a little bit more, within maybe the 7 hours I have if I meet them at 5, and then I have until 12. And just like, for example, they have to delay and they have to meet at 6. Like, okay, I can just do my assignment now from 5 to 6, and maybe I can spend like 6 to like 9 or 6 to 10 with them, like a longer period of time. I think that just flexibility to like switch things and to do things in gaps is something that makes me a lot more capable of meeting people, of getting experience and stuff like that. Because I feel like a rigid schedule is nice, but at the same time, I feel like my life would be very boring if I maintain
Right.
rigidity to my schedule. Like all the adventure, all the color of life comes from flexibility, in my
Really?
opinion. Yeah.
It's really interesting. So now that we got like professional, your thoughts out of the way, what is it that you like to do for fun around here, aside from all the clubs and all the passions that you have in academic learning?
Yeah. I think, honestly, I want to explore more than anything else. I come from Atlanta, Georgia. So Berkeley, honestly, is a very, very new environment for me. Not just Berkeley itself, but California as a whole, right? And I feel like I want to take advantage of the fact that I'm somewhere completely different. I'm a very big fan of traveling, although I don't always really have the time to travel everywhere. But not just traveling, but really immersion into a place. And I feel like I want to immerse myself in sort of the subculture that Berkeley has. Like, if I were to provide examples, very hustle, very fast paced, very competitive, but also very driven by impact and very collaborative, right? And I feel like I want to sort of take advantage of that subculture in some sense as like one branch of, I guess, exploration, but also maybe in a more tangible branch of exploration. I want to explore the area. I want to try out all the food here. I want to hike the best places. I'm a big runner and hiker, so I like hiking. I want to hike all the major spots. I still haven't been to Mount Diablo, which is nearby. I really want to go there at one point. Although I've been to Yosemite. I've been to Yosemite so many times. My first time was during my club's retreat, my freshman fall. And I feel like I was able to hike a lot with a couple of people who are also very similarly interested in that. And it was an experience that I will never forget, right? I want to
Right.
build those experiences through exploration, whether it's hiking, whether it's running, whether it's traveling. Honestly, through spontaneous activities, whether I have this friend that just loves driving to SF all the time. Shout out Tay. And I feel like sometimes it gets annoying. He's just like, oh, let's just drive like to SF. I'm like, dog, it's super late. Like, why the hell do we want to do that? But at the same time, that spontaneous spirit is something that I just want to take advantage of, because I feel like when you get older, when you work, when you have to have a family, you lose a lot of your ability to be able to do things spontaneously, because you have a lot more responsibility in your hands when you're older. Because it's not just your life that it's in your hands a lot of the time. It's like your kids' lives, it's maybe your wife's life or your husband's life or like your partner's life. Like, there's so much more responsibility that you have when you're working compared to when you're just simply an 18, 19, 20-year-old college student, right?
Right.
Like, you have, like, honestly, like, the world in your hands. Take advantage of that in a sense. Be spontaneous. Like, be explorative. Don't just sit in your dorm all day, or don't sit in your apartment all day. If someone gives you like an opportunity to do something, someone tells you just like randomly, like, oh, fuck it, let's go outside, or oh, let's just do karaoke, or oh, I found this new spot, like, can we just go explore? Like, don't, like, I know sometimes like we want to sit home, so we want to be at peace, but just fuck it, like, just do it. Like, you might get a new experience out of it. And I feel like some of my craziest and some of my most memorable experiences have come from just like doing random shit. Like, for example, literally like meeting you, I think is a good, like, my suite mate, right? Like, I met you through a mutual friend, if you remember, and honestly, it was just like a random, like, she found, shout out Afra, she found a poster sale at the art museum nearby. I'm like, okay, I've wanted to visit this art museum. Maybe you'll get a couple of posters. Fuck it, let's go, right? And that random experience led to me getting some of my closest friends to this day. And that randomness is something I cherish and something I don't want to lose, I think, is the biggest thing. So some might say, for fun, I like to read, or for fun, I like to hike, or for fun, I like to, I don't know, make art or paint or something like that. And I do value a lot of these things. Like, I'm a runner, I'm a hiker, I read a lot, I journal a lot. I sometimes try to write. Doesn't always end up well. But I think more than all of that, I just want to explore, in a sense. And I feel like being surrounded by people who have that similar drive to explore, especially college students who are just like, you know what, let's just go somewhere at this time. Like, we've been busy all this time, we've been studying all this time, like, let's take a break, let's go here, oh, there's this new spot I heard was great, why don't we just go there, like Golden Gate Park or something like that, who knows, right? I think that exploration is something that I really, really cherish, especially now that I really have the independence to do it, in a sense, and that independence I don't think I'll ever have again, right?
That's a beautiful message, and honestly, it really reminds me of something I heard from this one billionaire that was talking about his life. He said, despite all the work I do, I always make time, one time a month, to do something big, some kind of big memorable moment where I can remember I was with my friends, I was with my family, and we were having the greatest time of our lives. So following that kind of lesson I learned from him, I can definitely see how you would really appreciate these moments where you take advantage of the fact that all the people that you are probably going to be friends with for the rest of your life are all in one spot. What better time to do activities together than now, where you could just literally call them up and you're within a mile's reach away, right? Hop in a zip car and drive off.
Literally, like, drive off to the sunset. Like, it's amazing. Like, the opportunity we have here, it's like something we have to cherish, I think, is my biggest advice for people. Like, don't take advantage of it.
Right.
I think don't take it for granted.
Exactly.
And honestly, the billionaire's advice, great advice from a great person. Honestly, like, have one moment in each month that you're like, you know what, I'm gonna remember. You can remember
this. It for, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. So overall, this podcast is all about understanding each student's lives and what role college plays in them. So overall, would you say that college was worth it for you, or it is worth it for you, as someone that's a sophomore, second semester, gone through all the majors, gone through the applications, stuff like that?
Yeah, honestly, 100,000%, it's been worth it. Like, I can't even believe, like, it's not even been halfway. And from August 2022, when I first stepped foot onto this campus, into my dorm, I first set up my dorm with my parents, till now, I've changed so much. Like, the people I've met, like, are people that I never knew existed until before college. The things I've been exposed to, honestly, some of them, like, are areas that I never even knew existed. Like, I never physically, like, knew what they were, or even if I heard of them, like, they were just some vague afterthought in high school. Mm-hmm. All the lessons I've learned, all of the personality traits that I've gained from people, all of the bad things that happened, honestly, even all of, like, the sad things that have happened, all of the times that I felt sad, I felt down, I've cried, like, every single experience that I've had in college I feel like is one that I got something out of. And in that sense, I think college is worth it. Like obviously tuition's a lot. It's very expensive to go here. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there is a gain to college. You get your degree, you'll get a job from it." And I agree with that, obviously. But at the same time, I think what was more important for me, at least in this first year and a half ish of college, is I've grown so much and I've become, in my mind, a better person, a more confident person, a more caring person, and someone who is more understanding of maybe not their place in the world, but who they are to people. And I think that even if I leave college with just that, with just what I've learned in this past year and a half, I stay stagnant for the next 2.5 years, which I for sure know I will not. Even if it ends now, I will leave thinking that, you know what, it's worth it. It's been worth it.
That's very great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the talk, Vish. I think you dropped a lot of great insights for our listeners to kind of follow. And I really hope that they get the main message that you are spreading of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the main message is to kind of find a passion, explore a lot of things, don't take it too seriously, and connect with everyone that you can.
Yeah. And always try everything. Like if you have a passion for something, if you have an interest in something, don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to reach out to the right people. People are always here to help. It's the best thing I can think of. Yeah.
So before we end this podcast episode, where can people find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is Vishal Sareddy, spelled VISHAL SAREDDY. If you really want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's the same. Feel free to just follow me, connect with me, DM me. My DMs are always open. I always respond to people. And honestly, just a very open person. If you want to talk more, then just feel free to hit me up.
So as a final question, if you had to ask one question to the next guest without knowing who they are, what would it be?
Honestly, maybe these are two questions, but what makes you happy and how would you define success?
Very nice. I'll be sure to ask that the next time.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Yeah, thank you.